FCI Segoville's Texas entrance. For the majority of individuals, this is it. A sanctuary where harmful creatures are kept under check and the law is obeyed. Many believe that Josh Duggar's sentence of more than 12 years for gathering evidence of child sexual assault, he is the disgraced celebrity of 19 children and counting, was stored in the harsh and brutal setting of a federal prison. A guy who has been found guilty of a crime is typically the lowest form of existence. The story was eagerly awaited. But what would happen if I told you that story wasn't real? What if the world behind those barriers is horrifyingly different rather than merely different? Insider reports, intercepted communications, and a scared whistleblower are beginning to paint a picture so disturbing that it completely alters the way we see the world. Josh Duggar reportedly experienced a spiritual revelation while he was jailed. In fact, according to our informants, he became one. He was not harmed. He is a predator who has turned his prison term into a horrible new world. Don't worry, this isn't your typical Duggar scandal. He tells the story of a cult in federal prison, a deceptive manifesto written by its members, and the weaponization of the evil mind control methods used by the IBLP, the cult he was raised in. Josh Duggar's never-ending cycle of tyranny and evil is now coming to an end. All he required was a new flock to care for. Please wait until these records are made public before disclosing the terrible details of Josh Duggar's alleged prison ministry. If you believe that secrets like these should remain secret, click the like button right now. It communicates to YouTube the importance of this story. If you haven't already, kindly hit the bell button and subscribe. Spend as little time as possible answering this question. We can get started right away. The Segoville problem. Understanding the deception begins with the expectation. FCI Segoville is one federal correctional facility that provides low security. But low security is a relative term. This group of formerly incarcerated people is nonetheless governed by a rigid and often violent social order. Those who are convicted of crimes against kids, or chomos as they are known in prison jargon, are at the bottom of the ladder. They frequently experience abuse in the form of extortion, assault, and ongoing harassment. As a result, the predictions of law enforcement analysts, former convicts, and online commentators were all in agreement when Josh Duggar was admitted to the system. He was in for a horrible awakening. He would be pursued from the beginning. His heinous deed and his family's notoriety would make him a prime target. During the first several months, as news got out, it seemed that this idea was right. Tabloids quoted anonymous individuals who said he was scared, lonely, and depressed. This plot had been expected by all. The story seems to serve justice. But then a strange thing began to happen. As the story progressed, things changed. The muttering coming from behind Segoville's walls had changed in tone. Accounts differed. Other stories described Duggar as comfortable, unclothed, and insulated in addition to being safe. This time, instead of being hunkered down in fear, he entered the yard with a small but loyal group of fellow inmates. It wasn't an extortion attempt. He seemed to have access to more commissary supplies than the typical individual. How could this have been possible? What are the ways in which a convicted sexual offender survives and grows while behind bars? The official answer, when provided, was simple, neat, and completely consistent with the Duggar brand. Duggar Josh had found the truth. Now a devoted Christian, he had started a small Bible study and was applying what he had learned to assist other lost souls in discovering God. It was a redemptive story. It was reported that his fellow prisoners respected him because they believed he was sincere. They were not his bodyguards. Josh Duggar, the infamous reality TV star from the Duggar family who starred in the TLC series 19 Kids and Counting, is said to have composed a handwritten manifesto while he was incarcerated. This is a startling development. This document, which was leaked to the public, provides terrifying details about Duggar's life behind bars, including his participation in a prison cult and his perverse beliefs about control, religion, and power. The startling disclosures have caused a stir in the media, with many wondering how Duggar's incarceration has affected his mental state and whether his convictions may have influenced his behavior prior to his arrest. An odd route to detention. Josh Duggar's transformation from a well-liked television star to a convicted child abuser is widely known. He was imprisoned after being found guilty in 2021 of receiving and possessing evidence of child sexual abuse. But Duggar's illegal actions went beyond what the general public first realized. His manifesto presents an unsettling image of a guy who, although being incarcerated, maintains the radical, authoritarian views he once displayed on television. Josh Duggar was a well-known figure in the evangelical Christian world prior to his incarceration, advocating conservative principles and condemning the actions that resulted in his imprisonment. His family and the millions of admirers who watched his life on 19 Kids and Counting were rocked by his arrest. For many years, Duggar had been viewed as the epitome of a good, devout guy who led a morally upright life. Behind the scenes, though, Duggar's behavior was far different from the persona he presented. The Prison Manifesto, an inside look at Duggar's thoughts. The secret manifesto provides a chilling look into Duggar's twisted mind and is thought to have been penned during his first year in prison. Duggar writes about his experiences interacting with other prisoners, many of whom have a history of involvement in gangs and organized crime. Duggar's encounters with a group within the prison that many have referred to as a cult are detailed in the manifesto. According to Duggar himself, this prison gang has embraced a set of extreme ideas that are a warped distortion of his earlier teachings as an evangelical Christian. As he discusses power dynamics, deception, and a rigid hierarchy that represents the authoritarian authority he seems to seek, Duggar's manifesto reveals a troubling change in his worldview. Duggar appears to identify with this group in an attempt to find solace in their values as well as a sense of influence and belonging that he might have been lacking since his downfall. Duggar's critique of authority and control is among the manifesto's most terrifying elements. He discusses how certain inmates might gain power by taking advantage of the weaknesses of others in the criminal justice system. These deceptive strategies are reminiscent of Duggar's actions prior to his incarceration, indicating that he has managed to maintain power over others despite being in a setting as strictly regulated and watched as a prison. What the prison cult tells us about Duggar's decline. One of the most concerning aspects of Duggar's existence in prison is the cult-like organization he seems to have joined. Prison cults are not unusual, and they frequently center on a charismatic leader who takes advantage of the psychological and emotional weaknesses of others. With a rigid code of conduct and a subliminal focus on dominance, control, and subordination, the group Duggar describes appears to function according to identical ideals. According to his writings, Duggar sees this gathering as a location where he can rediscover his sense of significance and authority. According to some specialists, Duggar's affiliation with this group might be an indication of more serious psychological problems. Due to his reported history of authoritarian conduct and moral absolutism, Duggar may have been especially vulnerable to the manipulation and pressure that frequently flourish in prison surroundings. Given that he is discussing these topics in his manifesto, it is possible that Duggar is trying to defend his views and conduct both within and outside of prison by trying to explain them. Duggar's manifesto is especially disturbing because of the way he talks about his encounters with other members of the prison cult. He talks about developing bonds with other prisoners, some of whom he says have discovered the truth as a result of the group's lessons. This would indicate that Duggar is actively promoting the cult's ideologies rather than only being a passive member. This is consistent with his prior behavioral tendencies, in which he frequently assumed the role of an authority figure or leader in his family and society. The startling impact of Duggar's views. Numerous concerns on the long-term effects of Duggar's views on his family and the general public are brought up in his manifesto. Duggar had previously been implicated in contentious events prior to his conviction, including as the teenage molestation of his sisters, which his parents concealed. The public image of the family is tarnished by the disclosure of Duggar's jail manifesto, as many question the extent to which his poisonous outlook was influenced by the lessons he was taught during his childhood. The public is left to consider the unsettling ramifications of Duggar's beliefs and behavior as his story develops. His manifesto serves as a terrifying reminder of how, over time, deception, control, and power can become perverted and accepted, particularly when coupled with the fragility and seclusion of prison life. It's possible that the cult-like organization Duggar appears to have joined is a mirror of the evil inside his soul that has now been made public. In conclusion, Josh Duggar's stolen handwritten manifesto provides a terrifying glimpse into the perverse lives of a man whose existence has been characterized by control, deception, and a deep-seated thirst for power. His participation in a prison cult only serves to emphasize how deeply corrupted his morals are and how far he will go to preserve his sense of power. It becomes evident as Duggar's account progresses that the actual horrors of his deeds go far beyond what was first thought to exist.